little excitement there, huh? Okay, so frequency tables and histograms. I don't know when you last did frequency tables or histograms, but I guarantee you've probably seen them somewhere along the line. So just kind of review. So when we talk about the frequency, officially it says the number of data values in an interval. Okay, so it's the number of numbers within a certain interval. So like if we say, okay, how many numbers are there, if we have a list of numbers, how many numbers are there between 5 and 10? Well, if there's 3 numbers between 5 and 10, the frequency is 3. How many times does that type of number occur? Okay, so the number of data values in an interval. I always say the number of numbers in that interval. Okay, frequency table groups a set of data values into intervals and shows the frequency for each interval. So when we set up a frequency table, we're going to set it up so that our data is divided into groups and count how many are in each group, basically. Key information right here. Intervals do not overlap. They do not have gaps. So, like 1 to 4, 5 to 8, there's no gaps. And they are usually of equal size. The ones we're going to work with, I think, should always be equal size. So right there, those are your keys to be familiar with. Do not overlap, do not have gaps, equal size. Okay, so our frequency table example here. The data below show battery life in hours for different brands of batteries. Make a frequency table that represents the data. So I already have just a chart set up here for us to fill in. When you're setting this up, your right column is always going to be your frequency. And I've allowed for a labeling column. So the right column is going to be my frequency that tells how many times each item is happening. The left is, okay, what is it we're talking about here? And in this case, we're talking about, okay, battery life, and specifically battery life in hours. So I'm going to label this column battery life. And I am going to say in hours because officially that's, what we're talking, what we're looking at here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take our data and break it into groups. So as we look at that, what's our low and high values? I see a 22.
Oh, never mind. It's 22.
Well, I was waiting to see if you agree because I said I see 22. And okay. And so basically that means our first interval here is going to be 9 to something. When we get down, and I already have it broken up that we're going to do 4 intervals here. Our bottom interval is going to, well, we want them of equal size. How do I want to do this? Because officially I was going to say our bottom interval is going to end at 22.
Yeah.
But if we do that, we're not going to be able to get them all equal size. It's going to work out funky. So 9 to 22 is how many numbers? So if we take 22 and subtract off the 8 before 9, that's 14 numbers, right? If I take 14 and divide it into 4 pieces, that doesn't divide nicely. So I would say next closest number above 14 that divides by 4 would be 16. So if you take 16 and divide by 4, that's going to put 4 values in each interval. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like here, so 9, 10, 11, 12. So this first interval is going to be 9 to 12. If this interval is 9 to 12, the next one's going to start with 13. And 13 through 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm using my fingers.
16. Okay.
13 through 16. That one ends at 16. We want no gaps. So next one starts at 17. 17 to 20. And then
20 to 20, 21 to 22, I guess.
Well, go so that they're equal size intervals. So even though we're not going to have a couple of numbers, we're going to say 21 through
24.
4. Yes. Okay.
Can't count.
It's been a long time. Because even last time I taught Algebra 1, I didn't get to Chapter 12. So it's been a long time since I've taught this. So I know how to do this, but it's a matter of how do we go through the setup. Okay, so as we do, and at this point it's just a matter of counting the numbers and how many numbers fall into each group. Okay, so honestly, I'm kind of a tally chart person. Or if you just want to start counting them up. But if I start doing a tally chart, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like, there's a 12. There's a 9. 10 falls there. 14 in the next category. 10 in that category. That 11 is going to make me say cross with 5, right?
Yeah.
Is this okay with you? So 10 is going to be another one in the 9 through 12 category. 18. We get to go somewhere different. That's down the 17 through 20 category. 21 in the bottom. 10 is back up top. 14 is in the middle, or the second one, and 22 in the bottom. Okay. And there's other ways. I mean, you could have just counted them up and whatnot. But so how many do we have in the 9 through 12? What is our frequency? There were 7 values. So the frequency of the 9 through 12 hours of battery life is 7. 13 through 16 has a frequency of 2 because it occurred twice. 17 through 20, 1. And 21 through 24, 2. We probably could have done our tally chart over under frequency, but okay, so that's a basic idea of a frequency table. I went through and set up the homework. I'm honestly not exactly sure. I think you have to kind of have to set up a frequency table. I don't think you're just answering questions on it. I think it's a little bit of both. But, you could go, they could ask you, well, where was the most battery life? Well, it falls into the 9 to 12 because there were 7 times it occurred here. Those type of questions there. Okay? Okay, so that's the basic idea of a frequency table. Let's go look at a histogram. Histogram, a graph that can display data from a frequency table. Are we using the same? No, it's different numbers this time. Histogram looks a lot like a bar graph. It's not technically a bar graph. There are differences, but it looks like a bar graph. There's 1 bar for each interval. So, like if we were doing a frequency table on the last one, we'd have a bar for 9 to 12. We'd have a bar for 13 through 16, 17 through 20, 21 through 24. Those would be our different bars. And then the heights of the bar is the frequency. So like on the last one, 9 through 12 would have had a height of 7. Okay, so on and so forth. No gaps between the bars. Usually in a bar graph, you think of bar, little gap, bar, gap. With histogram, the bars are usually touchy. And the bars are usually of equal width. So in other words, just try to be uniform, I guess. Okay, so our histogram example. The data below are the number of hours per week spent playing sports by a group of students. Make a histogram that represents the data. So your left side of your histogram is going to be the frequency. So I'm labeling it frequency. And once we figure out what kind of frequencies we have, we'll worry about that. In this case, what are we talking about in this situation?
Hours spent playing sports.
Okay. So when I label my intervals down here, number of hours, hours per week, something about hours, right? I'm not going to be too picky, but we're going to have a label down here. I'm going to say number of hours. Now, like last time, we have to get this data organized. Okay, what's our low and high here?
The low is 1, the high is 17.
Do I agree? Obviously, the low is 1. I don't see anything higher than 17. So, as we think about 1 to 17, okay. So this one's slightly different. So you think about 1 through 17, and if we try and set up 4 intervals again, with the exception of that 17, it pretty much, you can do groups of 4 again.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just one number off. And I'm looking at the example here and the example here. It makes basically each of them one, intervals of 4 other than the last one, which is just 1 extra wide. Okay, and again, there's a little bit of freedom to do that. Again, bars are usually of equal width. There's some variance there. So, and I guess you'll come back to me and report to me tomorrow about Math Excel because I don't remember exactly how this, goes. So if we're going from 1 to 17 and we're doing intervals of 4, then that is going to make our first bar be representative of 1 through 4, like numbers in the 1 through 4 category. Our second bar is going to be numbers in the, if we do 1 through 4, then we're doing 5 through 8. And then if we're doing 5 through 8, then we're talking 9 through 12. And normally our last one would be 13 through 16, but in this case I'm going to say 13 through 17. Do you want to kind of, you have options here. You can just kind of go through and count.
Yeah.
And that might be easiest, or you can kind of make a frequency table off to the side if that's helpful. So if we look at 1 through 4, oh, by the way, we need to label our frequency at the left. Obviously, the bottom line is 0. This line would represent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 1 through 4s. I'm just going to kind of cross them off as I count them.
Stones, alleys,
Off to the side.
yeah.
That works too. We'll see if we match in the end, right? Okay. So that means, and I'm trying to divide this up so I get my bars also kind of equal width in 2 respects. That the bars are physically of equal width, but then they have equal intervals. So, okay, so 1 through 4, I'm making that bar 4 high. This is not a good day to try and do this because my VinQ is lagging. I need to restart it after school, but
It was that smile.
who knows? Maybe because I left it so long? I don't know. Okay, so 1 through 4. 5 through 8, I'm making my bar
7, 6.
6 high.
Yeah.
And some days my bin queue will just kind of automatically restart itself randomly when I don't want it to overnight, because I've left something on there on purpose, but I think I'm going to force it to restart today. Ooh. 9 through 12 is 3, and 13 through 17 is 3. I definitely do not care for the way that looks on the bin queue, but
It's so ugly.
it is. Okay.
Beautiful.
Got the idea of what you're doing there?
Best histogram ever.
Okay. Let's move on to the next page. Okay, top of the next page talks about histogram shapes. Okay, we can have, and it just talks about the shape like as you look at it as a whole. A uniform histogram bars are roughly all the same height. So that means each interval has about the same number of items in each category. Symmetric, you know what symmetric means, right? You fold it in the middle, it's the same on both sides. So symmetric, if a vertical line can divide the histogram into 2 parts that are close to mirror images. So maybe not exactly, but very similar. And skewed, 1 peak, not in the center. So the data is skewed one way or the other, where there's a higher point one place or the other.
I like that word.
You like skewed? Okay. Which histogram represents which shape?
The left is symmetric.
Okay.
The middle is uniform. And the right is
Okay. So we have symmetric. Again, not exactly, but just about equal on both halves. Uniform. It is uniform across, pretty much all the same height. And this one is skewed. More of the data is on the right half there. Okay. Pretty sure I saw some in homework like this where you just have to
okay.
identify. So it was last week that I made up the homework assignments, so I'm not 100% remembering, but okay, last one. Cumulative frequency table. So on the other page, we did a frequency table where it was each category had so many numbers in that category. A cumulative frequency table shows the number of data values that lie in or below a given interval. So that means the first interval has its numbers. When you get to the second interval, it's those numbers plus the numbers before it. When you get to the third interval, it's those numbers plus all the numbers before it. So it's accumulating. So when you get to the end, the very last interval will have the total number of numbers.
Okay.
Are you laughing at the way I said that?
No, it's just so many frequency tables.
Hey, that's half our lesson today. Okay, so cumulative frequency table. The ages of people at a family restaurant one evening are shown below. Make a cumulative frequency table that represents the data. And you'll notice I have 3 columns here. So what's going to be easiest, we're still going to have our left column being our groupings, our categories, or our intervals. We're going to put just regular frequency in the middle. So then when we get to the right, we can do the cumulative. So let's see. This time we're talking about ages. So I'm going to put I'm going to make ages that first column. It's kind of just labeling whatever we're going to be talking about. My middle column is frequency. And my right column is going to be, can't handle this bin queue, cumulative frequency. Okay, what's our high and low number values here?
That was 3, high is 56.
Okay, so 56, take off those two numbers not included. We've got 54 numbers to account for here. I have us breaking this up into 6 categories. If you think about it, 54 divided by 6 is 9.
So it's 9 for each one.
So each one is 9 wide.
Because, I don't know, it's just how you divide.
Yeah. So if our first number is 3, we need a total of 9, which, try to decide, other than using your fingers, what's the easiest way to figure that out. Because if you say 3 plus 9, that takes you to 12. But then if you're including 3 and 12, that's actually going to be 10 numbers.
Add 7.
So, more like add 8. Okay? So if you're trying to make intervals 9 wide, you want to add 8 to the beginning value.
Okay.
Okay, so 3 to 11. The next one starts then with 12. And it's going to be 12 to 20. Then we start with 21. 21 to 29. And we're going to start with 30. 38. 39. 47. And 48. To 56.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, however you want to do this. What we can do is, if we want, kind of, I'm not opposed to making a tally chart like right there.
We're just tallying.
Oh, over on the left?
Yeah.
Yeah, tally them wherever. I mean, I don't really care. I'm assuming we'll just do this on our own and meet in the end.
Yeah.
And hope neither of us make mistakes.
We got this.
And our values end up agreeing.
Yes.
Okay. So cumulative frequency. Sorry, I was trying to look something up real quick that I feel like it applies. It comes up in homework, but I don't remember what. It's hard to explain this. Okay. So cumulative frequency. The first frequency is just 5. So at that point, you have 5 values. For the next one, then, we already have 5, and we have 2 more to add to it, so we're at 7. For the next one, we already had 7. We're adding 2 more, and so we're at 9. Next one. We're at 9. We add 5. We're at 14. We're at 14. We add 5. We're at 19. We're at 19. We add 3. 22. And what that should mean is if you go back and count how many numbers we had up here, there should have been 22 numbers to start with. Okay? So it's a cumulative frequency, and that's how it's kind of different from a regular frequency. Now, I feel like there's some other question that you might be asked, but I don't remember. Okay. So I'm using Mrs. Rogers' notes because I didn't have notes for this section. Like these were originally my notes, but I didn't have an answer filled out. And so what I'm trying to figure out here, though, because she has a percent off to the side, and I know it's because they ask you some kind of percent question. I just can't remember what that question is. And I know you're thinking, what are you talking about, Mrs. Sargent? You're making no sense. But I remember seeing a percent question, and I just don't remember what, like, because she doesn't have the question written down.
I think so.
I know, that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm at.
It's sunny and it's Wednesday. It's the worst day of my life.
Okay, so that might be.
Pardon the interruption. Can I have your attention for a few end-of-the-day announcements? The high school cheerleaders are collecting donations for Dr. Andrews' homeless ministry to help offset the cost of her and help those in need. Socks, shirts, pants, t-shirts, undershirts for men, underwear, newer gently used shoes, coats, jackets, and sweatshirts, blankets, and hand warmers. There will be a bin outside the high school office for donations. Thank you for helping those in need. Pre-order your yearbook for $35. Price goes up after break. Pick up and return your order form to Ms. Higgins in room 208 as soon as possible. There's a family movie night on the 18th. Activities start at 6. Showtime is 7:30. Cost is $5. For general, $10. Includes general and activities. Test Cafe will be closed tomorrow. Any senior girl participating in Future Growth State, you can stop by the
Just been
guidance
saying it
office
every day 'cause it's
as
closed on
possible for more
Thursday this week.
information.
Oh.
Ivy Tech is sponsoring a spring science fair for students in grades 9 through 12. There are cash prizes given. Online registration is required. Stop by guidance. Seniors, don't forget to check your email about important information. Classroom delivery date will be 12/13. That's next Monday. If you have any lost items, please stop by the high school office and look through lost and found. They will be gone soon. You can see the following students in the high school office: Landon Hale, Rylan Purdy, Hunter Gray, Jimmy Rincon, Owen Toll, Garrett Moeller, Lucas Reed, Tim McCloud, Caitlin Young, Tyler Gibson, Savannah Webster, Xander Gold, Lily Stewart, Gatlin Hinkle, Eloise Gordon, Jayden Archer, Ray Rancier, Dylan Spray, Aiden Ellis, Ethan Gibson, Emily Partlow, Timothy Welchel, Kylie Tharp.
I want to go over this
At
question with you
tonight
real
we
quick so
have
you're a little
Sunday
better
boys
prepared.
basketball at St. Joan of Arc, and we have varsity wrestling at home against Madison Grant at 6. Good luck with all teams. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay, real quick so you're a little prepared for this, okay? There's some questions in homework about percents. For instance, percentage of people 11 and under. Okay, well, we had how many people 11 and under? 5. Out of how many total people?
22.
So if we turn that into a percentage, if I do 5 divided by 22 on the calculator, I get 0.227 something something something. How do I turn a decimal into a percent?
23.
I was going to say 22.7, but yeah, you move it 2 places. Yeah, that doesn't look like 22.7.
It's okay.
Gosh. But anyway, so you're going to see some percent questions. You're going to have to figure out the total, which you might have to count. Like if they give you a histogram, you might have to add up the heights of all the bars and then specifically the height of your bar. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If not, come ask me tomorrow and we'll.
It does make sense.
Okay.
I'm just itching to get out of here.
I can tell. Okay, do the homework for tomorrow.
Okay.